Number 10. Ariel Winter. Ariel has been acting since she was just a little bean, starring in movies like Speed Racer and Fred 2: Night of the Living Fred. That's right, remember that guy? But it was her role as young Alex Dunphy on the hit sitcom Modern Family that skyrocketed her to fame. But despite her having a solid relationship with her on-screen family, her real family was a completely different story. Ariel became a legally emancipated minor when she was 17, and I know what you're thinking, like why not just wait the extra year? Well, apparently the situation had gotten so difficult that it was the only thing she could do. According to Ariel, her mother was a tyrant on set, which jeopardized her future in both sitcoms and acting in general. Her attorneys argued that her mother was emotionally manipulative and very physically violent with her daughter, even depriving her of food during tapings of the show. Her mother, of course, denied the allegations and claimed that her daughter was making things up because she caught her getting busy with a younger dude. Hey, even if she did, that doesn't help your situation, lady. A judge eventually ruled that she would be granted emancipation, and she celebrated by thanking her Twitter fans. Number 9. Macaulay Culkin. Culkin was only 9 when he starred in the first Home Alone movie, and he quickly became a household name in the world of Hollywood. Despite being a rising star with several award nominations under his belt, Culkin decided to leave the acting industry at the age of 14 in 1994, shortly after appearing as the lead in Donald Petrie's comedy, Richie Rich. One of the main reasons he decided to call it quits was due to his parents, Kit and Patricia Culkin. Throughout his entire childhood, they were attempting to steal as much money from their son as possible. Seeing as they were his legal guardians, they were technically in charge of his finances until he was old enough to live on his own. Instead, they would take his money and just use it for their own personal fun time. So, at the age of 14, he cut his parents off for good by emancipating himself and retiring from acting altogether. Literally 1 year after this happened, his parents got divorced and began a long and terrible legal battle for their other 7 kids. Since then, Macaulay has developed a much stronger relationship with his siblings and has returned to the acting world, first appearing in American Horror Story Season 10. Number 8. Amanda Bynes. Amanda was once a young up-and-coming star in the world of child acting, having starred in her own Nickelodeon show and eventually moving on to the big screen for a short period of time. Unfortunately, around 2013, she took to her highly charged Twitter account to make a series of alarming accusations, including claims that her father was verbal and physical towards her on numerous occasions. She later deleted the tweets and claimed that what she said was a lie and that the microchip planted in her brain made her do it. Now, that did not help her situation. Amanda has a long, strange history with her parents. At one point, they were all very close, but by the time that she was 12, she had starred in a show with her own name as the title. Apparently, all the fame and rising fortune began to divide the family unit, and she attempted to emancipate herself from them, but suddenly withdrew the petition last minute. According to Amanda, her father was the main source of the issues. He was controlling and a very strict man, and he basically just told Amanda what she could and couldn't do every second of every day. Since 2013, Amanda has gotten better in terms of her mental health, but she will likely never act again. Number 7. Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is a sweetheart. This woman is one of the most loved child actors that still works to this day. However, her early life in Hollywood was actually filled with a ton of heartache. Her mother was the main antagonist of her life. According to Drew's memoir, Wildflower, she had lost credibility as a mother by taking her to Studio 54 instead of school. Studio 54 was a Broadway theater and a nightclub, which was a very healthy environment for a child. Between the ages of 7 and 14, she was forced to quickly grow up, having to take care of herself when her mother was out and about. But her always being gone meant that Drew had access to the cupboards where mom kept her stash of goodies, like no-no snow, no-no juice, and even some herbs and spices all rolled up and ready to go. But by 14, she was considered to be difficult and unhireable, prompting her to make a massive change in her acting life and personal one as well. Realizing her mother was the main cause of her problems, she started the process of legally emancipating herself, and according to the memoir, Drew's mom was actually very supportive of this choice, which was just another red flag for Drew. Her mom was stoked to not have a kid anymore. She was free to have fun and they could build a new relationship as part-time friends. But that did not happen the way she expected. Following the emancipation, Drew moved into a building with her close friend and began working at a local coffee shop that turned out to be a Hollywood hot night spot. She eventually got more work and rose to her current status as a Hollywood superstar. Number 6. Jaden Smith. Will Will's son Jaden was trying to make a name for himself very early on in his life, being a part of several projects with his father Will Smith as either a fellow actor or a producer. In 2013, the pair acted together in a terrible little sci-fi movie called After Earth. The plot was lame, the story was dry, and most people collectively agreed that it was the worst movie of both of their careers so far. Jaden was apparently fed up with the negative reception of the film and himself, so he decided to go the extreme and separate himself from his family. In his memoir, simply titled Will Smith writes about a time shortly following the After Earth's release, when Jaden approached him to have a serious sit-down about the possibility of emancipating himself. Will wrote that the worst part about the entire situation was the fact that he dragged his own son into the movie and made him the target of the relentless mocking from critics and fans online. Will remembers the moment as crushing. Ultimately, Jaden did not go through with the paperwork though, but he has distanced himself heavily from his family over the years and seems to be doing very well, now mainly being involved in the world of fashion and music. Number 5. Jamie Presley. Jamie may be known for her iconic roles in TV and film like My Name is Earl and of course Joe Dirt, but Jamie actually started out as a model before making her way into the acting world. Starting out in the business when she was just 13, her choice to emancipate herself actually came from a job opportunity 1 year later when she was 14. She had apparently been applying for more modeling gigs behind her parents' back, and eventually one of them accepted and offered her a job. That job was of course in Japan, so there was only one way for her to make the move and start her career. Without telling her parents, Jamie legally emancipated herself and moved to Japan to model. After a few years of actual modeling, that's right, it wasn't a scam, she realized that she seriously hurt her family and returned to make amends. In the end, they were able to stitch themselves back together and her career only went up from there. Number 4. Corey Feldman. Corey got his start in the acting business when he was just 3 years old, but it was a decision that he was forced into by his parents. As the years went by, Corey was able to find work in several cult classics like The Goonies and Gremlins, but his entire childhood was controlled by his parents. Corey alleged that he was worth $1 million by the time that he was 15, but thanks to his parents, he only had about $40,000 left. He was declared legally emancipated by his 16th birthday and was ready for a new life as a legal adult. Eventually, he moved into his own apartment and started climbing the ladder of success again with hits like The Lost Boys and License to Drive. He also developed a heavy no-no-snow habit and dabbled with psychedelics like Shroomy Woomies and the Little Paper Pals. This eventually blossomed into a spicy spoon juice habit that led to 3 substance-based arrests before Feldman entered into rehab in December 1990. Number 3. Alicia Silverstone. In case you forgot, Alicia portrayed the main character of the classic comedy Clueless, but I personally know her as the only good thing about Batman and Robin. Silverstone sought emancipation because she actually wanted to skirt child labor laws, according to a 1995 Rolling Stone profile. Her career began picking up steam when she was just 15 years old, back when she was offered a lead role in The Crush. At the behest of the producers of the film, Alicia and her father found a place in Oakland, California that would legally emancipate her from her parents. The logic behind the move was actually very sound. If you're emancipated, it means that you were legally 18 and you can work crazy hours. Many child stars are often limited to the time that they can spend on set. Her father was not stoked about the idea of his little girl becoming a legal adult, especially considering that both her parents were nothing but supportive to her throughout her entire life. But they ultimately put her career first and made the call. While she did have some success for a few more years, Silverstone actually stopped acting around the start of 2000s, with Scooby-Doo and Alex Rider Operation Stormbreaker being some of her last big budget projects. One is a classic, and the other one you probably haven't heard of before today. Number 2. Juliette Lewis. Juliette Lewis has made her name in the realm of acting and singing. She received an Academy Award nomination in 1991 for her role in the movie Cape Fear when she was only 18 years old. She had been dedicated to acting since she was 7 years old, starring in teen TV shows and movies for a majority of her childhood. She was so dedicated to acting that she decided to emancipate herself when she was 14, but her parents were beyond supportive. She had a wonderful relationship with her mom and dad, who were both creatives themselves when Juliet was cast in her first full-time TV show gig. She realized that despite her tenacity that she would have to follow strict regulations and hours regarding child acting. She decided that she wanted more hours and more work, so she asked her parents about the emancipation process. They immediately got so excited and walked her through step by step, helping their little girl rake in all that cash. The move paid off, as the little-known sitcom I Married Dora gave her the boost that she needed to get her big break, and eventually she quit school at 15 and received her first Oscar nomination before she was 20. And at number 1, Jenna Malone. Jenna has been a part of a few big-budget projects over the years, but most notably as Johanna Mason in the Hunger Games series. Much like many child stars on this list, her parents became in charge of her finances at a young age due to her successful roles in movies like Contact and Ellen Foster when she was just 13. Her parents mismanaged her money hard. According to the LA Times, her mother Debbie basically lived off her daughter's checks, blowing money on business schemes and down payments for houses. She even emptied out her college savings and took money from her trust fund. As a result, Jenna owed $20,000 in back taxes. There was apparently some strange tax situation that could only be solved if she were to become a legal adult. Thankfully, a judge ruled in her favor and she was able to take control of her finances. In a strange twist, the situation actually brought these two closer together, with Jenna claiming that her relationship with her mother is currently better than ever.
Coming in at number 10 today, we have Miley Cyrus, entering into the spotlight at a young age thanks to her role on the show Hannah Montana, which co-starred her dad, Billy Ray Cyrus, who was a huge country star in the early 90s. At the time, the two shared a close bond. However, jump to today, and the two are no longer on speaking terms. A source would then spill to the Sun that Billy Ray's divorce to Miley's mom, Tish, had a massive impact on the Wrecking Ball hitmaker, who had unfollowed her dad on social media. While speaking about the ongoing feud, the source would then mention Miley is all about peace, but she didn't agree with some things that her father has done. It really escalated, and they are not on good terms. Neither of them at this moment are particularly eager to make amends right now without an apology. Apparently, their disagreement all started when Billy Ray Cyrus got engaged to his new girlfriend, Fire Rose, who he met on the set as one of the young actresses working on Hannah Montana with Miley. Number 9, Drew Barrymore. Many people don't know that Drew Barrymore comes from a family full of actors, which starts with her great-grandparents, who were both stage actors, and since has continued on as each generation of her family has had members that have gained some measures of success in the industry. For instance, Lionel Barrymore, who was born in 1978, was best known for playing Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. And Drew's mother, Jade, is not the most successful member of the clan, but she was acting in a large array of projects and earned herself some notoriety when Jade also did pose for Playboy. And she's mostly just famous because of Drew's successful acting career. Considering that Drew followed her into the industry, you may have forgotten at one point of their lives they seem to be pretty close, but that's actually not the case, as Drew is pretty much estranged from her mom, and she's even been quoted saying, "Can't really be in each other's lives." Being emancipated from her parents since the age of 14, Drew knew she had to get away from her mother at a young age, because at the age of 9, her mother was making her adopt this party lifestyle while bringing her to Studio 54. While Drew was able to forgive her parents, she said that she will always be there for her mom, but sometimes she realizes that their chemistry and behavior will drum up a feeling that makes her say that she needs a break again. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Kate Hudson. Back in 2021, Kate Hudson would open up about her complex family dynamic, including her estrangement from her father. In an interview with Today, the actress would speak about growing up distant from her dad, who is a musician and actor, Bill Hudson. In the interview, Kate would say, "I think estrangement is unfortunately quite common. I think it's important for people to talk about that. If they can't reconnect or if it's too challenging, that's okay, right? I have a great family, I have a beautiful mother, I have a stepfather who stepped in and played a huge part in sharing what it is to have a dependable father figure in our life. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we didn't know our dad. Even though Kate is estranged from her dad, she would note that she has has gone through a process that made her look at her dad and realize that she does still have love for him and that the love will never go anywhere. However, her healing process has been pretty personal and she feels like sometimes people just want to hear that they're not alone in that. Number 7, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan is one of those celebrities that was so big at one point in the industry that she actually was able to make her family become minor celebrities. But it's pretty sad to say that her parents owe their low level of fame due to their dysfunctional relationship with their daughter. Things between Lindsay Lohan and her mother Dina have been pretty difficult in the past, with the actress and singer making several negative statements about her mother, but it seems like it's really Lindsay's dad Michael that Lindsay has the most troubles with, as Lindsay has even revealed her distaste for her father by even going as far to record a song that highlighted her treatment from her father. And she has even once described her father Michael as being a lunatic. Just by judging their past history, we can totally understand why Lindsay has chosen to live her life without her father's shadow, as he has done some pretty outrageous things to her. For an example, do you remember when he once recorded a phone call she made to him when she felt like her mother was out of control, and then he turned around and sold the private conversation to the media? If your parents saw you as a commodity to give them fame and money, you'd probably turn away from them as well too. Number 6, Brody Jenner. Now Brody Jenner is famous due to the accomplishment of people he is related to. That is actually a thing that is possible in modern society. Now if you don't know who Brody Jenner is, he is the son of athlete who competed as Bruce Jenner, who later married into the Kardashian family and then publicly transitioned into becoming the beautiful Caitlyn Jenner, and the stepson of Kris Jenner, the leader of the Kardashian media empire. While Brody was briefly featured on the reality TV series Keeping Up with the Kardashians at one time, things have since gotten a little less cordial. After she and Caitlyn had been separated, Brody has not kept his feelings towards his former stepmother or her children a secret. He even came for the Kardashian empire when he was quoted saying that the Kardashians are not his family, but more of a profanity-laced manner at Coachella in 2016. In an earlier interview, he would also reveal that he had cut ties with Kris. Number 5, Angelina Jolie. Arguably at one point, Angelina was the biggest actress in the world, and she will always be remembered for her roles in films like Tomb Raider, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Maleficent, and many more. Being the daughter of John Voight, her dad was also one of the most famous actors in the world at one point due to his work in movies like Midnight Cowboy and Deliverance, and still gets regular acting work to this day. Running in a lot of the same circles, you would think that this quality may draw them closer to another, but it's far from that case. It appears that both actors have struggled to have a strong relationship since Angelina was 8 years old. While it looks like they had moments of reconciliation, signs of severe rifts have surfaced. While John has pleaded with Angelina to get help in some public interviews, instead of listening to her dad, she's taken things to another level and completely erased him from her life. She even legally changed her name from Angelina Jolie Voight to Angelina Jolie to obviously make a jab at her father, which is actually pretty messed up. Number 4, the Jacksons. There is no doubt that the Jackson family is one of the most celebrated families when it comes to the history of music. First coming into prominence due to the Jackson 5, they would gain huge success. Nobody could have ever expected the group would be that huge and overshadowed in the years to come. When Michael went out on his own as a solo star, he became one of the biggest celebrities alive and was nicknamed the King of Pop for good reasons. Not one to stay in the shadows, even his little sister Janet would follow her brothers into the music industry and outdid everyone other than Michael, whose career she arguably rivaled with at one time. With so many superstars coming from one single family, it looks like they can owe a lot of their acclaimed fame to their father Joe, who from all the accounts pushed them hard to be as close as perfect as possible. Unfortunately, that came in the forms of physical altercations, which he admitted to in 2010, and because of that, he was seen by his kids and much of the public as a monster, especially when it came to his altercations with Michael Jackson. As a result, there have been reports that Michael couldn't forgive him, and Joe has largely been excommunicated from his large family. Number 3, Anna Chickadee Cardwell. For those of you who aren't really fans of reality TV, then you may have no idea who Anna Chickadee Cardwell is. But for anyone who enjoys reality TV, then you most likely know who she is, thanks to the spin-off of a highly controversial show called Toddlers and Tiaras. The show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo focused on a unique beauty pageant family that all go by interesting nicknames like Sugar Bear and Chubbs, and one of the daughters who went by Chickadee. And she's grown up and has her own family since the cancellation of the show that introduced her to the world. Her relationship with her mother has become strained, publicly claiming that Mama June, as she is known, misappropriated the funds she earned from appearing on the show. It's clear that Anna holds a lot of anger towards her mother, while June has continued to deny Anna's claims. She has stated that the money was sent directly to her daughter's bank account, and the distrust between them means that June is not allowed to have unsupervised contact with her granddaughter. And number 2, we have Dimitri Bell. When Dimitri Bell first got drafted into the Buffalo Bills NFL team in 2008, Bell played well enough that he was able to continue to play for the Cowboys as late as 2013. Like all professionals, he has been the topic of a lot of discussions, but his career isn't the first reason he has been on the lips of people. That is because he is the son of 14-time NBA All-Star player Karl Malone, and his relationship with his dad has never been anything close to controversial. The child of Gloria Bell, who was only 13 years old at the time of his birth, and his father, who was 20 the year he was born, spent years denying he fathered a child with a minor. When Bell finally learned about his parentage and met his father after graduating from high school, he finally met his father, and his father would tell him it was too late to have a father and son relationship. According to reports, Bell is said to be ashamed of the relationship he shares with his father, which is a strong indication that he has a lot of justified anger towards his father. Number 1, Frances Bean Cobain. Being the child of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain and his wife Courtney Love, who fronted the band Hole, since Frances Bean Cobain was born, she was instantly put into a position that meant the world was likely to pay attention to her. And while it seemed like she should have had a life full of luxury and peace, it was actually far from that. When Frances's father took his own life when she was a child, Courtney would fall into perils of substance and addiction, and Frances's home life would become very difficult. Despite being a child of music icon, Frances doesn't see her father in the same light that much as the world sees her father in. Instead, Frances feels like Kurt abandoned her in the worst possible way, and she isn't exactly fond of her mom. When Frances was finally able to emancipate herself from her mother, Frances would break off nearly all contact she had with her mother for years, to the point that when Frances tweeted out to her mom in 2012, it was seen as a breakthrough between them. At number 10, we have Miley Cyrus. In the wake of her parents' bitter divorce, Miley Cyrus has completely shut out her dad. After Miley's mom Tish filed for papers back in April to end the 20-year marriage to Billy Ray Cyrus, a bitter family feud would explode, and it would be displayed among the tabloids. And with it, Miley would finally cut off all ties she had with her father. Miley is simply done with her father, and it has even been said that she's always felt like her father was trying to cash in on her fame, dating back to the days when she played Hannah Montana. Miley believes the only one who ever truly looked out for her was her own mother, and that this huge rift may never heal. To add more fuel to the fire, Billy Ray Cyrus is apparently now engaged to singer Fire Rose, who he met while he was working on the set of Hannah Montana. Now, Miley definitely knows something none of us know, and it's leading to her resentment of her father. Many of Miley's friends have described the star of being incredibly stressed and feared that the wild child might just fall off her wagon again, as the family being in tatters could trigger another spiral. At number 9, we have Eminem. Eminem's boundless rage at his mother mirrors the invasiveness of her maternal love. Now, Eminem and his mother have been estranged for years, following the use of substances, accusations, and lawsuits. When Debbie became pregnant with Eminem at the age of 18, the rapper's father would abandon him right after he was born. Since leaving home, the rapper has gone on to slam his mother in songs for her lifestyle and how she raised him in not so good conditions. Debbie would eventually sue Eminem $10 million, claiming he was slandering her on the Slim Shady LP. Eminem's lawyers would then come out to say that Eminem's life is reflected in his music, and everything he has said can be verified as true. Debbie has then gone on to deny the claims. However, the two have since stayed estranged, and there's no hope for these two to reconcile anytime soon. Hey Peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. At number 8, we have Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin has discussed his childhood growing up and his relationship with his father, and it's heartbreaking to hear. When the former child star sat down with Mark Maron on an episode of his WTF podcast, Macaulay would go on to discuss the relationship he has with his estranged father, Kit. He would say that his relationship was physically and mentally draining, and because his father was his manager when he was younger, he would have to travel with his son to auditions and film sets. Despite the pair working relationship, they were never close. Macaulay would then say he goes all around the world locked in a room with a man who didn't like him. Macaulay's father even went as far to scare him into not using cue cards on SNL, and Kit also tried to use his power as his son's manager to gain creative control over his son's films, which would soon prompt Macaulay to depart from acting at the age of 14. Macaulay also had to erase both his parents off of his bank account just so they would stop eating away at his giant fortune that he earned as a child actor. So it's no wonder why he cut his dad off. At number 7, Drew Barrymore. At the age of 7, Drew Barrymore would become a household name thanks to her role in the film E.T. With Drew's mother never being prepared to be a parent, when raising her daughter, she didn't always make the right decisions. After Drew's parents got divorced, her mother would take her to Studio 54, where she would be introduced to illegal substances and encouraged to dance with young famous men. By the age of 8, Drew would start to consider herself as a party girl, and she was trying to keep up with her mother's lifestyle. By the age of 12, Drew would go through a stint of rehabilitation, and her mother would go on to lose the credibility as a parent. By the time Drew turned 14, she would be emancipated from her mother, and by divorcing her mother, she would continue to live independently before she turned 16. The star then went on to self-educate herself and later became the actor and woman that most look up to today. Drew has always felt guilty, and she's had empathy and utter sensitivity towards her mother, but realized that the two can't be in each other's lives at this point. At number 6, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan's relationship with her father Michael is rocky at best, and the two often go years without speaking to each other. Lindsay's rocky relationship with her father dates all the way back to when the actor was a child, when Michael began to struggle with substances. Lindsay has once even said that her father put herself and her family through hell following a stint of verbal altercations. In 2012, Lindsay would call her father following an argument with her mom, and her dad would later sell this phone call to the press, which would result in Lindsay to fully cut off her dad by 2016 after she became so fed up with her father spreading rumors about her in the tabloids. I mean, considering her father also posted her number online for everybody to see, I don't blame this star's decision to keep her father out of her life from time to time. At number 5, we have Emma Roberts. Not too long after Emma was born, her father Eric Roberts abandoned her, leaving the star to grow up with her mother in Los Angeles. While Emma's parents would become enemies following their split, even Eric's sister, Julia Roberts, would be against his custody of Emma, and she would even help Emma's mother gain custody of the star. Years later, it would be revealed that Eric was struggling with substances, and that's why his sister didn't support him having Emma during the bitter battle. Despite following her father's footsteps, Emma isn't on best terms with her father, and rather being a father to his own child, he became a stepdad to Keaton and Morgan Simmons. Emma's mom took on the role of a mom and dad, so with her father being absent at most events and taking credit for her career, it only makes sense why the star chooses to hush her father out. At number 4, Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie's estrangement from her father, Papa John Voight, was finally finalized in 2002 when she legally dropped Voight from her last name. Angelina ultimately decided to petition her last name to be changed just a month before her father's interview with Access Hollywood. During the interview, he would go on to complain that she hadn't let him see his grandchild, and he pleaded for her to get help for specific mental problems. Angelina, who co-starred in the movie Tomb Raider with her father, would respond in the statement by saying, "I don't want to make public the reason for my bad relationship with my father. After all these years, I have determined that it's not healthy for me to be around my father, especially now that I'm responsible for my own child." And number 3, Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan hasn't seen his mom for 21 years. For years, Tracy's mom and sister have been bad-mouthing him to the media for refusing to help save his mother's home from foreclosure. Tracy became extremely saddened by the untrue stories, and he began to grow tired of people questioning his commitment to his family. In an interview with ABC News, Tracy went on to state that the reasons they aren't talking are between them, and that he hasn't seen his mother in 11 years outside of a random call here and there, and he's had little to no contact with his sister. Tracy was also helping his mother pay for the mortgage after she she lost her job. However, after his mom and sister started talking to the media, Tracy would ultimately change his mind. And number 2, we have Frances Bean Cobain. Now, Frances Bean Cobain didn't officially cut off her mother, however, she did have a restraining order in place. Since Frances was a minor at the time, the allegations would remain sealed. However, that didn't stop tabloids from running story about what truly happened. The Daily Mail would claim that Frances took exception to Courtney Love's alleged substance use and that they even cited some of Frances' testimony. Frances would say that her mom rarely ate and she would often fall asleep with lit cigarettes in her mouth, and how she was afraid something bad would happen under the care of her mother. It was also then claimed that Courtney's actions led to the passing of 2 family pets, and this would leave her daughter to file for the restraining order so that her grandmother and aunt could be temporary guardians so she could get away. And at number 1 today, we have Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler didn't even know Steven Tyler was her father until she was 11 years old. Until that point, she believed that Todd Rundgren was her biological father. While Todd always knew there was a chance he wasn't Liv's father, he signed the birth certificate and gave her his last name and stepped in to raise her as his own. When Liv met Steven when she was 8 years old at one of Todd's concerts, she fell madly in love with him and would even go on to buy posters and talk to them. While Todd knew her father's true identity, he decided to keep it a secret due to Steven's reported substance use. In 2009, Liv would say that in the past few years, we haven't been very close. He's also been going through some things on his own, and he hasn't been around that much for us. So that's been hard, but I probably shouldn't be talking about this. I wish he was around more to know Milo more, but he has to go through what he goes through.
Number 10, Miley Cyrus. This one's pretty straightforward. Hannah Montana herself, Miley Cyrus, disowned her father Billy Ray after he decided to marry a woman who was on the show Hannah Montana with Miley when she was in her teens. Billy Ray had a stellar country career before Miley got her own show, and some would argue that as time's gone on, she started to outshine her dad. I'm just kidding, there's no argument, she is definitely more famous than her father now. Billy decided to pull a weird move and started dating a woman named Fire Rose, who acted alongside Miley on Hannah Montana. Miley stopped speaking to her father the moment she saw them together, especially after she discovered how much Billy spends on her jewelry and overall gifts. Number 9, Abigail Hopkins. The daughter of Anthony Hopkins used to be spotted with her father constantly. From the time that she was little to her early 20s, she would accompany her dad at red carpet events and film premieres, getting to spend some time with Hollywood's best and brightest. However, the two have not spoken in like 20 years, being bitterly estranged this entire time. In fact, Anthony and his daughter Abigail are so far removed from each other that Anthony recently said he didn't know if she had any kids and didn't care. He also said that he had no idea where she even lived, like he just really doesn't care about his own kid. The tragedy in her life started early when her father divorced her birth mother as a child, and she started living with her mom because Anthony was just never home and he was usually under the influence of something. He became so enamored by No Juice, it took over his life, and his role as a parent was basically non-existent. In this case, they kinda disowned each other. Number 8, all of Brangelina's kids. Well, there's been a lot of stuff being released about Brad Pitt and his adoptive kids this week, and it seems like they may have disowned him for pretty good reasons. Brad's adoptive son, Pax, has gone on record to say that his dad is an a-hole who makes his kids tremble in fear. In an Instagram post, he ranted about Brad's role in his life, and according to him, Brad is just an unhinged man who can snap at a moment's notice. He wrote that Brad made the lives of those closest to him a living hell, and he wrote, "Happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being," that Brad Pitt has time and time again proven himself to be a terrible, despicable person and has no consideration or empathy towards his youngest children who tremble in fear when they're in his presence. He will never understand the damage that he's done to his family because he is incapable of doing so. Brad responded to the comments, acting like a parent, saying that he was disappointed in his kids feeling they had to drag his name through the mud. Pax didn't say if there was a specific event that caused the rant, but considering the split that took place between him and Angelina in 2016, the rant is more than likely not baseless and probably has some darker truths behind it. Number 7, the Kardashians. Now I know what you're thinking, how could any of the Kardashians disown their parents? Who else would it be other than Caitlyn Jenner? When the new Kardashian series on Hulu was announced, she expressed her joy for the family, but simultaneously her disappointment with the way things have turned out family-wise. She was there when the journey first started on the very first episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and watched it grow for almost 20 seasons. one of the highlights of her life. And the show was canceled in 2020, but only 3 months later the family signed a new contract to make global content exclusively with Hulu. The Kardashian-Jenner crew have all but disowned Caitlyn, as not only was she not included in the series, but apparently she hasn't spoken to her kids since 2020. Number 6, Hailey Hasselhoff. Being the daughter of the guy from Baywatch sounds like it's the coolest thing in the world, right? Spending long days on the beach, the sun beaming, you get to meet SpongeBob. It's wonderful. But as it turns out, it's actually extremely difficult and it comes with its own set of issues. Hailey was born in 1992 when David Hasselhoff was at the height of his career. Being on Baywatch alone brought in over 1 billion viewers. Hailey had a lot of advantages. Not only was her dad famous, but she grew up in a really nice part of Hollywood, having the film Clueless literally filmed in the house next door. Unfortunately, being born into that kind of environment has left Hailey anxious and mentally struggling when she was growing up. During an interview with People, she explained that she had hardcore social anxiety growing up and found it paralyzing to go to school. She ate to cope with the anxiety, and when she was 11, she was mistreated for her weight. Growing up in Hollywood really just didn't help. She said it was an environment where people wanted to fit in rather than stand out, being surrounded by fakers. As time went on, she wanted to be a part of her father's work, but she was exposed to the dark side of Hollywood when David's no-no juice habits took over his life. She stopped speaking to her father regularly around that time, and her parents divorced, and these days she works in her own world of fashion modeling, small screen cameos, and of course, sharing body positivity messages. So, good for her. Number 5, Jamie Lynn Spears. Both of the Spears sisters have been through a rough go. Mom loves no-no juice, and dad's a menace to this planet, but Jamie takes the spot on this list because she's actually disowned her entire family, Brittany included. Growing up with her sister in the spotlight was never easy for Jamie, even after she got cast to be the lead of the show Zoe 101, which is, I genuinely thought she was more famous than Brittany when I saw that show. But it turns out that was just a ploy to gain her parents' approval. Instead of gaining that approval, she got a taste of what her sister had to deal with. Her parents were just happy that there was more money coming into their pockets. The older Jamie got, the more complicated life became. When Brittany was under conservatorship, she did everything that she could to be on her parents' side and make Brittany feel worse, even writing a tell-all book before Brittany did. She has never publicly disowned them or signed any paperwork, but she is also a grown woman now and just really doesn't need to do any of that. Number 4, Jack Quaid. You may know Jack from quite a few projects in the past few years. I personally know him best as Huey on the incredible Amazon series The Boys, but he's actually been carving a path for himself, appearing in movies like Scream from 2022, Oppenheimer, and even The Hunger Games. This man is a true treat, but I honestly didn't know that he came from famous parents, and then I saw who his dad was and I felt like a moron, a feeling that I get fairly often. His parents are Dennis Quaid from The Parent Trap and Meg Ryan from every rom-com starring Tom Hanks. You would think being the son of two very well-respected performers would mean that life is but a breeze, but Jack actually decided to distance himself from his family and do his own thing. He knew he wanted to be an actor from a young age and follow in his parents' footsteps. Thankfully, he grew up in a house where that was a real job prospect and they were all for it. But Jack knew that he had an advantage over everyone else and he didn't want to misuse that privilege. In fact, Dennis tried to get him an agent, but Jack refused to accept the help. He eventually found an agent and made his on-screen debut in the first Hunger Games movie. He didn't have a ton of lines, but he was very present throughout most of the runtime. Eventually, he made his way to Amazon, and the rest is history. Still being made. Number 3, Ireland Baldwin. The daughter of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger has been through a lot of ups and downs with her parents. Her father is well known for being a bit loud and unnecessarily mean to his daughters, and for, mishandling props. Her father famously left her a voicemail calling her an ungrateful pig and a bunch of other things that I can't quote, but it actually isn't the phone call that strained her from her parents. It was a medical situation. While making an appearance on the now canceled talk show Red Table Talk, she got candid about her parents and her upbringing. Like many Hollywood kids, she was filled with anxiety and had a deep-rooted fear that people were out to get her or just wanted to simply be with her to be with her parents. This especially made it hard for her to individualize from her parents. She continued to reveal that she had a lot of body image issues growing up and still does, despite being a high-paid model. The divorce between Kim and Alec was difficult, and Ireland was dragged into it, creating a toxic environment at home that left her struggling even more than she already was. She stopped speaking to her parents and created her own career career outside of her family. Number 2, Suri Cruise. Despite sharing a child with his ex-wife Katie Holmes, Tom Cruise has not seen his daughter Suri in over 10 years, according to online sources. The reason being, well, they just don't share the same religious beliefs. Tom is a member of the scientific community, if you know what I mean, and his daughter just isn't. When he divorced from Katie, he was informed that he was not allowed to keep in contact if the family did not want to be involved with his views. And on top of this, in recent years, it's been revealed that Tom doesn't even view Suri as his daughter. She is merely a spiritual being inside the body of his daughter. Jeez. At least that's what a book says. Tom says the reason he hasn't spoken to his daughter is because of his busy work schedule. The initial 100-day absence that was reported in the early 2010s was apparently due to Tom filming in London. It was impossible to just see his daughter, but Suri has not come forward publicly to speak out about her dad. Then again, she isn't even in her 20s yet, so why don't we just let her keep her privacy for now? And number 1, Elijah Blue. Musician and artist Elijah Blue opened up about his life being the son of one of the greatest musicians of all time, Cher. Elijah told the people at ET that there were times growing up he felt shunned by his parents, being sent to a boarding school at the age of 7. I didn't know those things were real. I always thought that they just made him up in movies to scare kids, so that's messed up. It's no wonder that he felt abandoned. His mom was Cher, and while she was out touring the world, he was living in a school. That is a nightmare I regularly have. As time has gone on, he has come to terms with his position and accepted it fully, but just because he's accepted it, it doesn't mean that it's okay. He said while in boarding school he'd fly home to see his family in New York on vacations. Well, not his family, he would fly in and throw his stuff down just to leave the house and visit his friends. At an early age, he partook in narcotics and no-no juice that left him rebellious. In his time being a rebel, he developed a case of Lyme disease that forced him to seek treatment in Germany. And he has actually been thankful for that experience because he met his current wife while in Germany. So that's cute. When he was home with his parents, he remembers the house always being full of other people. Not love-making sessions and no-no stuff and rock and roll, but still, big parties with lots of adults. As time went on, he spoke less and less with his family, but was still able to create a career for himself. Number 10, Macaulay Culkin. Having been in the acting industry since the age of 4, Culkin was only 9 when he starred in the first Home Alone movie and became a household name shortly afterwards. He was eventually named by VH1 in 2005 as the second greatest child actor of all time. Culkin was also nominated for a Golden Globe for his appearance in the iconic Christmas film. And he also won that year's Young Artist Award for Best Young Actor in a Film Role. Like, this dude, it was on an upward spiral. Culkin decided to leave the acting industry at the age of 14 in 1994, shortly after he appeared as the lead in Donald Petrie's comedy film Richie Rich. He took this step essentially because he felt tired of the industry and his parents' control over him. The Culkins do not have a great relationship with their father, Kit, who has 8 children, 2 of whom are no longer with us. Macaulay, for instance, has spoken about how he was very physical towards them growing up. In a 2019 profile with Esquire, Macaulay portrayed his father as a controlling bully who pushed his sons into the acting business because he just couldn't achieve success for himself. He told many people in his life and later in interviews that acting had become a chore instead of something that he enjoyed doing. He wanted a normal childhood, so he quit and made it happen. Thankfully, he has since returned to the acting world, most notably in season 10 of the FX series American Horror Story, and he's married to former Disney star Brenda Song. So things seem to work out in the end there. Number 9, Amanda Bynes. Amanda got her lucky break on the Nickelodeon sketch series All That. Eventually, the producers decided to offer Amanda her own show. Her success only grew from there, and the Amanda Bynes show became one of Nickelodeon's most watched series, and she was picked up by several studios to star in non-Nickelodeon projects like She's the Man and Easy A. But Amanda took a hiatus in 2013 following a very public mental breakdown. According to Amanda, she had become addicted to the devil's lettuce at a young age, and while it wasn't an addiction at first, with more roles came more pressure and a need to find a new way to cope. This eventually led her to more drastic substances. In 2013, Amanda posted a series of bizarre tweets where she seemed to be insulting everybody that she could think of. She even called the former President Barack Obama's wife ugly, clearly referencing a character from The Amanda Show, but it's still pretty harsh. She was arrested and placed under psychiatric hold as she was accused of several hit-and-run incidents and was officially charged with reckless endangerment and criminal possession of herbs and spices. Her parents then placed her under a conservatorship until 2022 when she stood in front of a judge, healthier and better than than ever. Number 8. Ke Huy Quan. Ke Huy Quan is one of 2 Goonies on this list, playing the character Data in the 1985 classic. He was also short round in the Indiana Jones movies, delivering some iconic one-liners and cementing himself as a legend in the world of child acting. Around the end of 1991, he decided to take a break from the acting world as the fame and fortune was slowly becoming too stressful. He took a break from acting for over 20 years before making a triumphant return to the silver screen in 2022's Everything Everywhere All at Once as Waymond, the lovable universe-jumping husband. In fact, he was so good in that role, he received the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, delivering a tearful speech that I really can't talk about because I'm gonna cry too. Number 7. Lil Tay. Lil Tay is a rapper, and according to the photos that pop up when you Google her, it looks like she has a phone made from $100 bills. Not sure what that's about. Recently, she popped up in the news after someone shared the information that herself and her brother had passed away. This took the internet by storm, and her fans were devastated. However, it turns out that she is still very much alive, and in a statement given to TMZ from Tay's family, she made it perfectly clear that she is safe and still kicking, and she said the last 24 hours had been particularly rough. Apparently, her Instagram account was hacked by some third party, and they used it to spread misinformation and just straight up rumors. But much like me, these guys didn't know how to spell stuff, so the first clue was that her name was literally misprinted several times. What's still unclear is why it took Tay 24 hours to get word out that she was alive, especially because she says she was aware that her account was hacked and was getting phone calls about her passing. She got famous as being one of the world's youngest flexers, literally making money by pretending to have money on the internet. But she stopped doing that in 2018 after receiving so much online hate. And that's why many people were confused why her account had posted this announcement when it had been so inactive for so long. Number 6. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay is a jack of all trades. She acts, she sings, she dances, she writes, and she's even the queen of her own business empire. Now, despite all of this though, this former Disney star and Hollywood bad girl has a net worth of like $500,000. Well, that is apparently because she loves to take nice long vacations, like all of the time. Lohan has been forced to declare bankruptcy a few times, and as we know, she fell out of the mainstream and started a very public battle with substance control, basically quitting the acting world forever because she just got too into the partying lifestyle. This left Lindsay in the 600-figure range, making her poor by Hollywood standards. Eventually, this young child actor entered rehab and kicked their bad habits right into oncoming traffic. It wasn't until she posed for Playboy and opened up about her life on Oprah Winfrey's talk show that her finances began to stabilize, she started getting more roles again, so here's hoping that we get that Freaky Friday sequel we've all been waiting for. Number 5. Jeff Cohen. Jeff's name may not be familiar to you, but his most iconic and only acting role certainly is. Jeff played Chunk in the much-loved classic adventure flick The Goonies. Chunk was one of the many young actors in search of the treasure of One-Eyed Willie, so they could save their small seaside neighborhood from being bulldozed to the ground. And this movie has aged like a fine wine. It just gets better and better the older you get. Jeff stole the show and truly stood out among the ensemble who could forget his notorious interrogation scene? That dude almost got his hand blended. Following the success of the movie, many were under the impression that he was going to have a long, successful career. While his co-stars went to star in franchises like Lord of the Rings and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jeff decided to go the opposite direction and he quit acting entirely. Unfortunately, he was being pegged as a chubby actor, so that's exactly what people were trying to cast him in. And rather than give him room to grow and breathe, studios were just trying to typecast him as this big nerdy dude in every single project. He found it difficult to secure work, and it was unfortunately puberty that secured his fate. He was going from chunk to hunk, according to an interview with the Daily Mail, and eventually he realized that it just made sense to give up for now and try something else. So that is exactly what he did. He went to school, focused on his mental health, and he got a degree in law. And now he works out of a law firm that he co-founded with his business partner, Cohen Gardner. So good for you, Jeff. Number 4. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Mary-Kate and Ashley were once the stars of their own show back in the day, and they made several movies together like Double Double, Toil and Trouble, and New York Minute. Now around 2005, these two suddenly stopped making movies or TV appearances out of the blue. It turns out that they had been fed up with the movie business. Not just that, but the amount of toxic men in the field really came to light. Apparently they were being harassed or mistreated all the time at a very young age. It's no wonder that they hated most of their time on set. Since stepping away from the movie industry, the twins launched a fashion brand called The Row, a company that has won several awards, even taking home the highest honor of the Council of Fashion Designers of America. Gee, that sounds like a fashion Illuminati to me. Probably some pretty comfy robes though. Number 3. Barrett Oliver. The never-ending story was a staple in many childhoods. Filled with magic and mystery, this film was dropped stopped in our lives in 1984 and featured some of the most beautiful practical effects ever put to screen, and some really weird puppets. The main character of the story is Bastian, a young man who finds a book about the world of Fantasia. Now, we only see Barrett as the narrator a few times over the course of the film, but in the final act he is whisked into the world of Fantasia. Barrett starred in a handful of projects in the 1980s, but following 1985's Cocoon, Barrett decided to stop acting. The success of the film Neverending Story was causing him trouble at school. Kids would be making fun of him and they actually called him Fur Boy. It was not fun. So he decided to quit acting and focused on another career. Oliver now works as a photographer and printer, specifically antique photos. So if you see a man with a long black beard and dreadlocks asking you for a photo on the boardwalk, it might be the kid from the Neverending Story. Number 2, Peter Ostrom. From the moment he walked into the room, talent agents immediately knew that Peter was the perfect pick to play Charlie Buckets after seeing him partake in theater productions in Ohio. The young talent and his co-stars began filming in Munich in the summer of 1970 as he was approaching the 7th grade. The film was released in June 1971 and is still considered to be a classic in the world of cinema. It's personally been giving me joy and scaring the life out of me since I was a young lad. Following the success of the film, you'd think Peter would have continued to act, but instead he decided to step down and focus on his true passion, being a veterinarian. That's right, if you live in New York, there is a very good chance that Charlie frickin' Buckets had your cat spayed or neutered. In recent years, he has told interviewers and fans that the movie business just wasn't for him. Number 1, Jake Lloyd. Jake was the little boy that became a Sith Lord, playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1. While his character eventually becomes Darth Vader, Lloyd's personal life would turn out to be just as rough. Following the release of the film, Jake was actually picked on relentlessly by both his peers and Star Wars fans. He grew up with people hating him in public settings and cursing his name whenever Episode 1 was even mentioned. Seriously, Star Wars fans are just plain mean, man. Jake eventually decided to quit acting for good and save himself from any more public backlash. All that hate seemed to stick with Jake over the years though, as he had become more and more violent in the public eye, and he was becoming well known for being short-tempered. In 2015, police chased the 26-year-old Lloyd for 25 miles before he crashed off the side of a road on Interstate 95 in South Carolina. He wasn't intoxicated at the time, but after being arrested and sent for a psychiatric evaluation, it was concluded that the young actor had just been suffering from schizophrenia and he was held for treatment. Thankfully, currently Jake is in a much better place mentally speaking, but his career will unfortunately never recover.
Alright, number 10, Drake Bell, Drake and Josh, a sitcom that gifted us with some incredible one-liners and caused anyone named Megan to have their lives changed forever. Drake Bell and Josh Peck starred as the titular Drake and Josh for 4 seasons before being cancelled in 2008. Following the cancellation, the 3 main cast members, they all went on to have steady work for a short while. Miranda Cosgrove, who played Megan, had some success in voiceover and was given her own series iCarly before dropping out of the acting world in 2015. Josh Peck starred in a few movies and TV shows here and there, but has only recently made a return to mainstream, appearing in the new Christopher Nolan film Oppenheimer. Drake has probably had the worst go of the crew. When the show was cancelled, his roles were limited to straight-to-video flicks and voiceovers starring as Spider-Man in the animated Ultimate Spider-Man series. The worst performance of all, though, was when Nickelodeon thought it would be a great idea to make a live-action Fairly Odd Parents movie. I actually remember this, starring Drake as Timmy Turner. Needless to say, his status as a celebrity was gone at that point, but the nail was driven into the coffin in 2021 when Drake was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service after it was revealed he'd been being a young fan for years. So if you see him in an orange jumpsuit cleaning graffiti off the wall, you'll know why. Alright, Jamie Lynn Spears at our number 9 spot. Jamie starred as the title character Zoe in the hit series Zoe 101 alongside fellow entry on this list, Matthew Underwood. Her time on the show was well received and made many fans excited about what she may film next. When the show was eventually cancelled in 2008, Jamie was at the center of a massive media rumor. The theory was that Zoe 101 was abruptly cancelled due to Jamie becoming pregnant with her daughter. The reality was that never happened. happened. Jamie did get pregnant, but it was 6 months after filming had wrapped on the series, so the show was canceled by the executives at Nickelodeon. For some reason, they felt the show was done and needed to be replaced by something new and more fun. And Jamie actually did have plans to continue her career on the silver screen, but like we said, 6 months into looking for work, a new job opportunity opened up, and it would be the most challenging of all, the role of a mother. She decided to move back to Mississippi and gave up her career in film to raise her kid and be a star to, the household. Now, it's not all missed opportunities, however, as Jamie is still remembered fondly as a musician, releasing several songs before 2010, and has recently been popping up at several country and rock festivals to lend her voice to the crowd, and many fans will be happy to know that not only there will be a Zoe 101 flick released on Paramount Plus this fall, but it stars the entire original cast, and a trailer is already out for us to enjoy. Perfect. All right, number 8, Jake Paul. Jake Paul looted them all. News headline or Dr. Seuss title, I don't know, that's right. The famous YouTuber Jake Paul was briefly a Disney star in the early 2010s, appearing on a short-lived sitcom called Bizaardvark. And in 2020, Paul was involved in a looting that took place in Scottsdale, Arizona. A riot broke out in a mall, literally surrounded by police helicopters with lights and sirens, and Jake's reaction had people scrambling for their phones and cameras, but video footage was released by Paul himself, showcasing the events of the night. People were smashing windows and taking everything in sight. And while Paul posted a statement on Twitter claiming he had nothing to do with the riots and they were exclusively kind of observers of the event. But the video did show Jake intervening with looters in the mall, and of course groups were recognizing him almost immediately. And thankfully, the authorities stepped in to make their move on Jake, who told his fans, "No cap, that's tear gas, bro." Okay. Thank you. However, that was just the situation Disney needed to kind of finally fire the guy, according to Disney, and his reckless public behavior was very well known to them at the time, and there had been plans in place to simply address the issue and learn, but the following events in Scottsdale, well, kind of had no choice to cut ties with the performer immediately. He was charged with criminal trespassing, and his defense for the Scottsdale event was that he was documenting it as a, quote, public service. If I videotape my friend stealing a Star Wars mug from Hot Topic, is that also a public service? I don't know. All right, number 7, Mitchell Musso. Mitch played Hannah Montana's best friend, Oliver Oaken, on the hit Disney sitcom Hannah Montana. When the show was coming to an end, he began dominating the Disney scene. He was cast to voice Jeremy in Phineas and Ferb, playing one of the Ritual Kings and Pair of Kings, and something called Hatching Pete, which I vaguely remember watching, but this one I'm pretty sure I've kind of repressed. Now, he seems to be on track to follow Demi Lovato as the next big thing to come from Disney, and people think that about Demi Lovato, right? Unfortunately, his career came to a screeching halt in 2011 when he was arrested in Burbank, California. He neglected to slow down after being directed to kind of do so by police and pull over. The report said the moment the window was rolled down, it was like a cloud of something just drop kicked them in the nostrils, and he blew a BAL of 0.8, which for those who don't know means he was kind of gone. He was also forced to participate in a adult juice educational program and charged with driving under the influence. Kind of standard, but needless to say, it doesn't really go with Disney's vibe. So he was recast on Pair of Kings. His prank show, it was canceled, and he was basically blacklisted from Disney entirely. He had also been attempting to start a music career, but that also just kind of nosedived into the toilet. Now, if you'd like to find Mitchell these days, just go download one of his old songs. You'll be the first to do in a while, and I'm sure he'll find you. All right, at number 6, we have Orlando Brown. That's So Raven, another series considered to be a part of the golden years, also known as the early 2000s of Disney. It starred Raven Simone as the titular character who had the ability to briefly see the future via unprompted visions. Now, I swear every time I explain a plot to an old Disney show, I question who was on what when they were pitched. The show had a stellar supporting cast, including Raven's best friend Chelsea and Eddie, played by Annalise Vanderpool, and Orlando Brown. Orlando's time as Eddie was received well with audiences, and he quickly became a fan favorite for not only his comedic abilities, but dramatic ability as well. Now, after Raven wrapped up its final season, Orlando's career, it took a bit of a turn. Surprisingly, he was being cast as a small side character or secondary characters with minimal screen time, so he never really got a lead after the show. In 2022, he appeared on Dr. Phil's talk show and opened up about his struggles mentally and financially. He also shocked audiences with his his new look, drenched in tattoos and sporting a pair of demon eye contacts. Now, unfortunately, it seems that Orlando has fallen victim to the darker side of Disney, and he was arrested for a misdemeanor as well after an altercation with his brother. All right, number 5, Brenda Song. London Tipton. She was the daughter of the man behind the chains of Tipton hotels in the sitcom Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Brenda Song accepted the role right as she was about to start college. Little did she know the character would consume her life for the next 6 years. She appeared as London on both Zack and Cody and its reboot sequel, The Sweet Life on Deck, for a total of 6 seasons following the show's cancellation in 2011. Brenda starred in a few smaller roles in films like The Social Network, as well as TV shows in like Scandal, New Girl, and Superstore. Now, Brenda, she's still active in the acting community, just in a smaller capacity, as she's traded in her Disney fame for family fortune, starting a family with her boyfriend and fellow child star Macaulay Culkin. Now, Richie Rich and London Tipton have a child together, and that's not a show, or not even a reality show. Brenda is slowly making her return to the mainstream as well. However, she has recently starred in a few Netflix and Hulu series, including the comedy series Dollface, where Brenda claims to have rediscovered her passion for acting. And here's hoping that inspires Disney to make another Wendy Wu movie, maybe? If you don't know Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior, you need to look into that. All right, number 4, Kel Mitchell. Welcome to Good Burger, home of Good Burger. Can I take your order? The sentence that always blasts into my skull when I talk about Kel Mitchell. Kel was another young buck to be cast on the hit show All That with Amanda Bynes and future best friend Kenan Thompson. Much like Amanda, Kel was asked to participate in a spin-off of All That, only this time a straight-up sitcom rather than more of a sketch show. And the show, Kenan and Kel, starring Kel and Kenan Thompson, is one of my favorite that Disney Channel produced, and these two had incredible chemistry, and so good that Nickelodeon had a movie centered around them, Good Burger, that has actually aged pretty well, and his character never really took off after that, with him only appearing in that sitcom world and in a minimal capacity then. But his loss of fame was kind of self-inflicted as his career on screen slowed down. His family life has been nothing but up. He decided to stay at home and focused on building a relationship with his wife and rapper Asia Lee, and they are currently expecting a second child sometime this year. We're hoping that when the kids are a little older, Kel can get some time off and maybe make a return to the acting world. Now, there was a rumor of a Good Burger 2 being in the works, so let's start that now. Hashtag Good Burger 2, make it a trend. All right, number 3, Josh Peck. Josh made up the second half of the series Drake and Josh alongside musician and bad boy Drake Bell. Josh got his start on the Amanda Bynes show alongside Amanda Bynes, participating in several classic sketches before eventually moving on to his own sitcom that is still considered to be one of the best Nickelodeon shows ever produced. Josh's time on the show, it was wonderful. He delivered a zany, big-hearted kind of brother vibe that went really well with Drake's rock and roll, I need love on the inside kind of character. And following the cancellation of the show, Josh went on to star in several silver screen showings like the underrated comedy Drill Bit Taylor starring Owen Wilson and the reboot of Red Dawn from 2012 alongside Chris Hemsworth. His career dipped in quality following that performance though. Josh was starting to seem like another Nickelodeon kid who was growing up to be rambunctious and wild instead of taking his job seriously. He lended his voice though to several characters over the years, including various roles in the Ice Age films, but has mainly stuck to small TV roles or independent flicks, and he did maintain a following. However, as of a few years ago, he started posting TikToks as well. Those received millions of views, and recently Josh has popped up on the cast list of Christopher Nolan's upcoming historical drama Oppenheimer. Perhaps this will mark his return to the acting world if it's in a movie like that. Now, he may be on the road to Oscar territory. All right, number 2, Amanda Bynes. Amanda, she got her lucky break on the Nickelodeon sketch series All That, essentially the Nickelodeon version of late night sketch show Saturday Night Live. It sported a stellar cast, including current SNL cast member Kenan Thompson, Drake Bell, and Lori Beth Denberg. Eventually, the producer decided to offer Amanda her own series. Her success only grew from there. The Amanda Bynes Show became one of Nickelodeon's most watched series, and she was picked up by several studios to star in non-Nickelodeon projects like She's the Man, Easy A, and Amanda took a hiatus, however, in 2013 following a very public breakdown. In 2018, she told fans exactly what caused this breakdown. Now, according to Amanda, she became addicted to the devil's lettuce at a young age. While it wasn't an addiction at first, more roles came more pressure and a kind of way to cope, and this eventually led her to more drastic substances. She also believed that she wasn't pretty enough anymore to be in films, and she took Adderall as a way to help her stay thin. In 2013, Amanda posted a series of bizarre tweets where she seemed to be insulting almost everyone she could think of. She called the former president Barack Obama ugly, clearly referring a character from the Amanda Show, but still. She was arrested and placed under psychiatric hold as she was accused of several hit-and-run incidents and was officially charged with reckless endangerment and criminal possession of some interesting herbs and spices. Her parents then placed her under a conservatorship until 2022 when she stood in front of a judge, healthier and better than ever, ready to move on with her life. The judge then said, okay, Amanda is free to go. Good luck, Amanda, then. Okay, there's a million kids who grew up with you and we've got your back. Alright, let's end things off with number 1, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay is a Disney star who actually never really appeared in a sitcom or TV series. She got her start acting at just the age of 3, starring in over 60 TV spots and commercials for brands like Gap, Pizza Hut, and Jell-O. She got her big break when Disney cast her to play 2 roles in the classic Disney family comedy, The Parent Trap. She played twin sisters Hallie Parker and Annie James, who randomly met at a summer camp and discovered their parents split up when they were babies following a divorce. The twins then hatch a plot to get mom and dad back together, and it's delightful, one of my favorites. Her career, though, only seemed to rise from there, starring in several cult classics like Freaky Friday with Jamie Lee Curtis and Mean Girls as the main character Katie Heron. Unfortunately, her career took a step in the wrong direction when she was arrested in 2007 for driving under the influence of a controlled substance, for which she served 84 minutes in jail. Yep, minutes. Some people spend years in jail. Lindsay, she got a warning there. Until 2022, her career kind of came to an abrupt standstill, but she not only seems to be better mentally, she's also under contract with the streaming giant Netflix to release a few rom-com flicks over the next couple years. So maybe her and Adam Sandler will make a Netflix multiverse. Now, I don't know how I'd feel about that, but we'll see where it goes.
Starting off our list, number 10 is Danny Lloyd. For decades, people have been wondering whatever happened to the kid from the iconic horror movie The Shining. Like legit, horror fans have actually asked the author, Stephen King, where the kid went. Turns out he left the Hollywood glitz and glam to become a pig farmer and a science teacher. No, this is not a joke. Danny was only 5 years old at the time when he took on the role as Danny Torrance in the 1980 classic and reached fame almost instantly. But he didn't seem to want it. He is now in his 40s and is happily married with 6 children. In 2013, he did his first interview since he was a kid with Daily News, where he opened up about his now normal life. He said that people don't recognize him when he goes out in public, and he loves that. He explained that he did continue acting after The Shining, but ended up giving up when he was a teenager because it was just too difficult. He said, "We kept trying for several years until I was in high school, and I stopped at about 14 with almost no success." Danny says he enjoyed being in the movie, but went on to work at a local Walmart after, and then drove a tractor on a hog farm. Now he is teaching biology at a community college outside of Louisville. Fans were hoping to see him reprise his role for the upcoming sequel, Dr. Sleep, but sadly he is sitting this one out. Coming into number 9 is Mara Wilson. She is best remembered for playing Matilda in the 1996 film titled after her character. Kids were quick to fall in love with her character and the magical powers that came with it. In fact, we are still talking about Matilda to this day. Earlier this year, there was a trending game called the Matilda Challenge, which had people making videos of them dancing around the room and pretending to make objects move. Just like her iconic scene from the movie, which I totally loved. The challenge went viral and Marley even reacted to them.
I'm glad they get it.
Matilda challenge! Oh, Matilda! Matilda!
I love that they know it. I'm amazed that there were several of them who just got it right away without knowing.
But regardless of how fun her character was, Marla would disagree, which is why she quit the business just a few years after the movie brought her fame. In one of her blogs in 2012, she wrote, "Here's something no real celebrity will ever tell you. Film acting is not very fun." Well then, after leaving Hollywood, she went on to live a normal life and found a passion for writing. In 2013, she was asked if she would return to acting, and her response was, "No, I don't think so. I do act sometimes, times in friends' projects, but when I do, it's just for fun. It is actually a hobby for me now. We haven't seen her on the big screen in a long time, but she continues to work on screenplays and novels. Swiping the number 8 spot is Shirley Temple. She began acting at the young age of 3 and became Hollywood's biggest box office child star in the 30s. I mean, who hasn't heard of Shirley Temple? I'm pretty sure we were all sick of her song Animal Crackers in My Soup after singing it every time that we had a bowl of soup as a kid. Or maybe that was just me. By the time she was 12, she starred in 43 movies and tons of commercials. But by the time she was 22 years old, she decided she wanted to retire from acting. She ended up changing her career path entirely and ran for Congress in 1967. She lost, but then 2 years later, she was appointed to represent the US at the United Nations. She then became the US ambassador to Ghana from 1974 to 1976. Who would have thought the Animal Cracker Girl would end up in politics? Sadly, she did pass away in 2014 at the age of 85, but her memory lives on forever. In Hollywood and in politics. Talk about a life full of achievements there. At number 7 is Jeff Cohen. The child star was famously known for his role as Chunk in The Goonies, which is one hell of a classic movie. The movie came out in 1985 and he continued his acting career up until 1991. So if you do the math, that is a total of 6 years. Not very long. He's been asked on numerous occasions why he left the industry. He cracks jokes saying that puberty forced him into early retirement as a child actor. He explains that as he got older, finding work was a lot more difficult. The roles were different and the competition increased as he got more involved in the industry. But once acting was out of the picture, he found a passion for law and attended the University of California, Berkeley, earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. He had no problem leaving the world of Hollywood behind. He ended up becoming a lawyer, and in 2008 he was named one of the top 35 executives under 35 years of age. So he's a successful one at that. He says that acting has benefited his legal career because it makes him more empathetic for his clients and less academic. Basically meaning that he can show more emotion. I feel that. Here we are at number 6 with Kay Panabaker. She made her on-screen debut when she was 12 years old. She first became popular after taking on the role as Nikki in the Summerland TV series and then later on as Jenny in the 2009 Fame movie remake. She also starred alongside her sister Danielle Panabaker for a few Disney Channel shows and movies. But throughout her time filming, she was also going through school and trying to do advanced courses. She actually graduated from high school at the age of 13. So she was one smart little cookie, which might be why she decided to leave her acting career and go to school full time. She ended up going to the UCLA and studied zoology. From there, she got her dream job as an animal keeper at Disney's Animal Kingdom. The now 29-year-old has said that she doesn't regret her decision and loves what she's doing now. I mean, that's a pretty sweet gig. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Peter Ostrom. You might remember him as Charlie Bucket from the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie back in 1971. He was only 12 years old when he got selected to play the role, and although he enjoyed working on it, he decided not to sign a 3-film contract once the movie was over. He returned home after filming the movie and just never felt the desire to go back, continue to pursue his acting career. He says being at home sparked an interest in horses and he wanted to become a veterinarian one day instead. He ended up going to Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine in 1984 to receive his certificate. Later on in 2005, he moved to New York with his wife and 2 children, and as of 2018, he works out of the Countryside Veterinarian Clinic. As for acting, he says that he wanted to live a normal life and had declined reporters and interviews for a very long period of time. He explained, saying, "I wanted people to judge me on who I was, not what I'd done." He even said that sometimes in his childhood he lied and told people that it was his brother in the movie, not him. I wonder how many people actually fell for that and believed him. Next up at number 4 is Ariana Richards. She will forever be remembered for her role as Lex Murphy in the 1993 Jurassic Park. She was only 14 years old when she booked the role. She just so happened to be one of the grandchildren of Jurassic Park's creator. Talk about having some connections. She actually started her acting career 6 years before Jurassic Park, but it was the one role that put her name on the map. Basically, it was her big break. After that, she appeared in multiple movies and also had a cameo appearance in The Lost World Jurassic Park. But she decided that her last on-screen appearance would be in 2001 as she sparked a new interest for painting. She went on to graduate from Skidmore College and she now runs her own art gallery. The artist is now 40 years old and is married to Mark Bolton, who she shares a daughter with. Coming into our number 3 spot is Jake Lloyd. The child star had a good career going after starring in 4 episodes of ER back in 1996, but his breakthrough role was playing Anakin Skywalker in the 1999 Star Wars The Phantom Menace. The 8-year-old had some big shoes to fill at such a a young age because we all know how crazy and passionate Star Wars fans are. He had to play this sweet innocent kid but also show a dark side that would be convincing enough for him to grow up to become Darth Vader. After his first Star Wars appearance, he reprised his role as Anakin's voice for 5 video games, but Jake stopped his acting career by the time he was 12 years old. His life took a turn down a dark path and he was arrested in 2015 for reckless driving after a high-speed car chase. He was charged with reckless driving, failure to stop, resisting arrest, and driving without a license. In 2016, TMZ reported that he was transferred from jail to a psychiatric facility after a diagnosis of schizophrenia. When speaking with the Daily Telegraph, he spoke about his Star Wars days, saying that kids bullied him at school because of it, so he ended up destroying any memories he actually had from the filming experience. This one wasn't really a happy ending. In spot number 2 is Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Twins are a 2-for-1 deal, so they are taking one spot on this list. The twins were infants when they stole hearts playing Michelle Tanner on the hit TV series Full House back in 1987. They were 9 years old when the series ended, so basically their entire childhood from birth was on a film set. From there, they started their own brand simply by being the Olsen twins, where they made a collection of Mary-Kate and Ashley movies. I have all of them on DVD. They also had their own TV shows called So Little Time and Two of a Kind, but their last on-screen performance together was back in 2004, where they did their first theatrical release movie, New York Minute. These two were wildly famous. They were actually billionaires by the time that they were teenagers, owning their own clothing line on top of all their film success. But they didn't want that to last forever. They announced in 2012 that they officially retired from acting and now focus on their fashion line called Elizabeth and James. They still remain in the public eye to an extent in the fashion world, but they keep their life very low key. We barely hear or see anything about them anymore. Taking the number 1 place on our list is Macaulay Culkin. Every kid in the world knows him as the kid from Home Alone. He will always hold a place in our hearts for playing Kevin McAllister in those classic Christmas movies. And although he's mainly known for that series, he also appeared in 8 other feature films between the years 1990 to 1994. The kid was a huge star. He went on to make a guest appearance on the NBC sitcom Will and Grace and starred in the movie Party Monster. Many would say his acting career was solid from there on out, but then, which felt like kind of out of nowhere, he quit acting. He wanted to live a normal life and ended up moving to Paris, where he spends most of his time writing, painting, and working on a podcast called Bunny Ears with his friend Matt Cohen. After going MIA for many years, he has now made his way back into the limelight to share his story, but he hasn't really came for all the fame part of it. He's actually thrilled when people don't recognize him or bring up the Home Alone movies. He told The Blast, "I was going to Paris for a little while and I thought people didn't recognize me. But then it was like, no, we recognize you, we just don't care." And I was like, where have you been my whole life? I think we're so used to seeing celebrities in the spotlight that it's hard to believe that some don't actually enjoy it.
Number 10. Mama drama. One thing that comes up a lot in Britney Spears' memoir is her relationship to her parents. She discusses the strain that was placed especially on the bond between herself and her mom, Lynn Spears. She dived deep into her childhood and what actually went down. In the book, she said that she started drinking no-no juice with her mother when she was just in the 8th grade. Of course, that's awful and no one should ever do that, because Britney wouldn't just have a sip of it, no, she would just drink no-no juice all day like it was her job. She explained that for fun, she started having fruity no-no juice with her mom while they were in Biloxi, Mississippi. Say that 10 times fast and I will give you $100. To make things feel less illegal, they would call the drinks toddies, named after the adult beverage that's basically just no-no tea. Britney felt a special bond with her mother because of this, especially considering the contrast between her mom and her dad when he would drink. When her mother had a few, she was bubbly and had, the same bright personality, and that's what Britney had as well. But when Jamie had a few, he would get angry and depressed. That behavior is terrible, and while bonding with your parents is awesome, not the right way to do it. Number 9. Jamie Lynn Spears. In her memoir, Britney says that she's working very hard to have more compassion towards her sister, Zoe 101 herself, Jamie Lynn Spears. In the book, Britney revealed a ton of information on Jamie, including the fact that for the entirety of her conservatorship, Jamie would just tell her to move on and stop fighting for control. Britney writes that her younger sister ruled the roost at their home in Kentwood growing up, leaving Britney feeling like a ghost to her parents. She writes that she would walk into the family room and that no one would look at her. Her sister was always too glued to the TV and, according to Britney, would constantly berate berate their mother, calling her every name in the book. According to Britney, Jamie did nothing to help her during her time under the conservatorship. When she was placed into a mental health facility in 2018, she asked Jamie for support. She replied by telling Britney to just give in and stop resisting. At the time, Britney was under immense mental stress and wrote that she was scared that someone was maybe trying to hurt her in the facility. Her relationship with her sister Jamie has been strained for a long time, with Jamie lying to her several times, including one incident where Jamie claimed that a Zoe 101 co-star was being mean to her on set. Britney confronted the star, Alexa Nichols, by yelling in her face, and she had no idea what was happening or why, because it turned out that she was being lied to from the very beginning. Good sibling right there. Number 8. Justin Timberlake. Now, one of the most discussed sections of the memoir is of course the revelation of what actually happened when Britney and her Mickey Mouse Club co-star Justin got together. After meeting JT in the clubhouse, the two sparked a romantic connection. The connection was so strong, but unfortunately Britney had to make a very tough decision in 2000 after she found out she was pregnant. At first, Britney was actually pretty excited about this. In her book, she actually revealed that she had planned on starting a family with Justin at some point, but I guess that it was just gonna happen a little bit earlier than it expected. Well, it turned out that Justin didn't want anything to do with this. He was not excited at all, and he just told her that they were both too young to be starting a family, reminding her that their careers would also have to be put on pause. Ultimately, she decided not to have the baby, something that she claims to be the most devastating decision of her life. Now, part of the memoir revealed this about Britney and Justin, but another part revealed what exactly this man did to break up with Britney. The breakup happened while Britney was on set for the overprotected Dark Child remix music video in LA, but towards the end of the second day of filming, the director Chris Applebaum told Page Six that Spears suddenly went missing for almost an hour. The director found Britney in her trailer on the floor with her legs crossed, bawling her eyes out while her makeup just slowly fell down her face. She said nothing but showed him the text that she got from Justin that just said, "It's over." Following the breakup, Justin wrote and released the song Cry Me a River based on his experience with Britney, claiming that she had cheated on him while they were together, something that she actually confirmed in her book that did happen with a choreographer named Wade Robson. Number 7. Jamie Spears. Britney's father Jamie has had a complex relationship with his daughter for the most of her life, and that is putting it lightly. In her memoir, she shared the harsh judgment she constantly got from her father, explaining that she thought getting criticized for her body in the press was bad. It hurt even more when it was coming from her own father. He repeatedly told her that she looked heavy and that she really needed to do something about it. She explained that even as a small child, he never gave her the love or attention that she needed. She said that feeling like you are never good enough is a soul-crushing state for a young child. He drummed that message into her growing up, and even after she accomplished so much, he continued to make her feel like dirt. Jamie's wild opinions about Britney got so much worse when she was under her conservatorship. Under the conservatorship, Jamie was named as one of the several people in her life that could make important decisions for her mind, body, and soul. She was forced to grow her recently shaved hair back out and go back into shape. For 13 years, that man remained in control of her life right up until the suspension in 2021. Number 6. Yeet the parents. Following the end of her conservatorship, Britney was able to make decisions for herself again, taking full control over her mind, her body, and her soul. And one of the first decisions that she made was to drop her family from her life entirely. The moment of realization came when she went to visit her parents in 2021. According to Britney, they had stopped answering their phones, so she decided to drive out and see what was up. During the visit, she learned that her beloved Madame Alexander doll collection that she got when she was growing up was thrown away by her family. She also came to find that multiple years of writing had been trashed, including binders full of poems that could have occupied their own book. She decided if they were ready to throw her away, then she was going to do the same thing to them. Number 5. Christina Aguilera. Despite Christina Aguilera's publicly advocating for Britney and her ex Justin to get back together, behind closed doors she felt the exact opposite. Britney and Christina grew close after meeting on set of the Mickey Mouse Club. As time went on, they became close, and Christina was well aware of the pain caused by Justin during and after the relationship. Despite seeing the pain firsthand, she decided to team up with Justin for the Justified and Stripped tour in 2003, only 1 year after the split. They were together on the cover of Rolling Stones in a manner that made the room steamy when you read it. Britney revealed that she was mad at Christina for a very long time, admitting that she was jealous that Christina was free to party and see people while she was forced to sit back and watch. In the early 2000s, the two had a semi-public rivalry. Christina would regularly bash Britney Britney and make claims like she was a lost little puppy backstage at the 2003 Video Music Awards. Number 4. Conservatorship. As many people know, Britney was placed under a psychiatric hold in 2008 following what we will call a difficult evening, and was later placed under a conservatorship by her father. In her book, she explained what she had been going through at the time, saying that shaving her head and acting out were ways of pushing back. Under the conservatorship, she was made to understand that those days were now over. She had to grow her hair back, get back into shape, she went to bed early, and took whatever medication she was told to. Britney revealed that she felt like an infant under the conservatorship and lost her passion for music. She explained that she started to feel more like a thing on stage rather than a person. In her book, she said that she had always felt music was in her bones, but her family stole it from her. She reminded readers of the contrast between male and female artists, telling them to think of all the male artists who gambled their money away, who had substance control issues or mental health issues, anything like that, but many of them have never had control of their bodies or money taken away. Before the book was released, people were just under the impression that the conservatorship was more of a financial and mental kind of thing, but as the book revealed, it is a lot darker than that, and we'll probably learn a lot more once it's actually released out into the public. Number 3. Why she shaved her head. In 2007, many people believed that Britney had just kind of snapped. Her rage was nothing more than celebrity-induced psychosis, right? No, but in her memoir, Britney revealed what exactly prompted the public meltdown. She was in the midst of a painful divorce with Kevin Federline, and she was constantly bombarded by paparazzi. She wrote that she had been eyeballed up and down for her entire life, with people telling her what they thought of her physical features constantly. Shaving her head was an act of defiance. It was a way of pushing back. The shaving took place only a day after she was released from a rehab facility in Antigua, which, just didn't help the case that she was trying to make. A year later, the conservatorship was put into place. As part of the new rule, she was forced to grow her hair back out and was made to take the medications to help speed up the process. Number 2. Robot. When speaking about her conservatorship, Britney described how the 13-year ordeal made her feel like she was her father's little robot at his beck and call. She outed her father as being a terrible human being, but we've already talked about that. He stole a lot of money and stuff from her and threw out her dolls. He's great. Britney said that feeling like she wasn't enough was a message that her father made sure to drum into her skull growing up, writing that she became a sort of robot, becoming so infantilized that she was losing pieces of what made her herself. Although her body and finances were being controlled by her father, she was deemed well enough to work in what the former estate conservator called a hybrid business model. She writes that the estate controlled who her friends were, where she could go, and logged her every purchase down to drinks from Buc-ee's. She also said in court that she had been forced to take baby control pills and medication against her will. And at number 1, being a mom. Britney was placed into a conservatorship after having kids with her ex-hubby Kevin Federline. In her memoir, she revealed that one of the main reasons she went along with the terms of her conservatorship was so that she could see her kids, Sean and Jaden. According to Britney, she did everything in her power to get out of this conservatorship or work around the rules somehow, but unfortunately she was unsuccessful. Kevin was given sole custody of the younglings in 2008 after Britney was hospitalized when she locked herself in a bathroom with her sons and refused to give them back to their father. They made a deal, according to her, freedom for naps. She was given permission to visit and cuddle the kiddos every once in a while. At the same time she revealed this information, Britney also shared that they brought her comfort in a time when she was forced to be very uncomfortable. After her father forced her into 2 psychological assessments where they physically pinned her to a gurney, she realized that she could do nothing to stop them from doing anything to her physical body, so she had to start figuring out what to do mentally. Her kids brought her a sense of calmness that she was able to hold on to and use to get through a really tough time.